I call the Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr Speaker, I'm sorry the member couldn't go more than about 3 minutes, but it was an entertaining 3 minutes, and it's an entertaining 3 minutes that I'm sure will get clipped, we'll put on YouTube, and we'll share with the Facebooks of the RSAs around the country, because that is the sort of brains trust approach from the National Party that we've seen throughout this legislation. They unfortunately let that member chair a select committee. Don't trust her to do it again on this particular bill. In fact, they don't trust anyone to take this to a select committee and hear what the public think about it. Mr Speaker, I think it's fair to say that the process on this bill has been appalling. And the Prime Minister, Mr Speaker, has taken a very unusual approach. Now, I'm not going to say the Prime Minister misled the House, because the comments that he made were outside the House. What I am going to say is he misled the public. On the 6th of September, he said, we're talking about the addition of Red Peak, what did he say? To change that now, we literally, I don't know why he said literally, but he said, he adds a few extra words in there every now and again, we literally have to change the law. We can't go and do that. We can't go and change that, he said. And what's he doing? What's he doing today? On the 7th of September, asked if he could guarantee that Red Peak would not be an option. I can, because there is the issue. There was a well set out process. The committee decided the four and sent them to the Cabinet. Cabinet had the right to overrule them, but chose not to, and they accepted the recommendations. To accept any other flag, the All Blacks one with a silver fern, or any other one, we would have to change the law, and we're not going back to Parliament to do that. Now, you know, if he'd said it in here, he would have been misleading the House, and could well have been a breach of privilege.
He's misleading the country.
But apparently it's all right for the Prime Minister to mislead the country. Mr Speaker, my colleagues of Grant Robertson in response, he thinks this is the best of the designs. I disagree with him. I think that the ones with the fern in are probably slightly better, and I'll take a wager with anyone that the Red Peak one ends up at number 3. It'll be the second to last one to drop out of the process. It's better than that thing which is apparently a koru, but it's subject to a lot of interpretation. That one, the fern. I don't think we're allowed to mention pigs and Tory leaders at the moment. We're allowed to mention ponytails, but not pig parts, Mr Speaker, at this particular time. But getting back to the bill, my view is that the fern, which is an awfully drawn fern, and the koru will drop, and the Red Peak will be the one which follows that. Because frankly, it doesn't mean anything to a lot of New Zealanders. It's just not there. But Mr Speaker, Labour is the party of opportunity. They're the party for New Zealanders to take a chance. There is an opportunity that is before us now, and we've had a lot of discussion about the yes-no vote, and as Jonathan Young knows well, every party other than the National Party who was present at the committee supported having a yes-no vote, and we were overruled. But today gives us yet another opportunity. I actually like a straight silver fern, something pretty much like the All Black silver fern. I've used that flag at Athens at the Olympics. I've held it up. I was there at the end of the triathlon when we got the quinella, and I was holding that flag. It was something which means a lot to Kiwis, much more than any of the alternatives that we are currently looking at. And I agree with the Prime Minister, it would be a better approach. And so what the Labour Party is going to do, it's going to give the Prime Minister a chance to actually live up to what he says. and get his preference onto the ballot paper. So later on, you know, I don't want to undermine what the Green Party is doing with their sort of liberal red peak, you know, the coffee bars and wine bars and the other places, you know, where ordinary people don't really go. You know, it's certainly not that, you know, there's no big demand for the red peak in my electorate other than a few people in Eastbourne, I think it's fair to say. But Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of demand for the silver fern, a straight silver fern that the Prime Minister appears to be running away from. So what the Labour Party will do during the committee stages is we will put up an amendment. Seeing we're shifting from 4 to 5, we will put up another amendment only to be used if the Cabinet wants to. So, you know, it can be done as a matter of late change, have to be done pretty soon. But my understanding is they'll have about another 2 weeks to decide. And they can add a 6th flag in if they want to. And my challenge to the Prime Minister is to do in the Cabinet, to do in the Executive Council, what you said you wanted to do around the country for months and months, and that is to have the silver fern as the flag of New Zealand. Stand up, Prime Minister, for your principles. Stand up for your beliefs and give Kiwis, who I believe would much more prefer to have the silver fern, the chance to put it at the top. Mr. Speaker, I'd put it at the top. No, given the choice. I think it's the best option. I'd then vote against it later on because I think we should keep the current flag, especially during the commemoration of the First World War. But if we're looking at the best alternative option, then my view is that the panel, and I want to absolutely deny what Tim McIndoe said earlier. Most of the panel are people of absolute integrity. There are a couple of people on it who are not people of integrity, who are late additions on the part of the National Party to the group that was recommended by the cross-party group. And whether they over-influence the panel, I'm not going to say that. But people like John Burrows and Brian Lahore and Rod Drury are people who I believe have an enormous amount of integrity. I've got a lot of respect for them, but they made a big mistake in not getting decent design advice, and as a result of that, good people made an error, and we've got 4 and now 5 flags, which are frankly dogs. They are awful flags. They're not flags that most New Zealanders want. They've had a look at them, and 70% of New Zealanders say, given that field, we are not interested. We are not interested in a change. And if the Prime Minister is not prepared to get a decent flag, a decent alternative onto the ballot paper, it is our view that New Zealanders should be given the option of saying, nah, we don't want any of them. We're going to save $7 million. We're going to build some houses for people who need them. We're going to feed some kids who are hungry. We're going to get some early childhood education for kids who aren't getting it. All of us have priorities for getting more jobs, having better social services, which are more important than a second referendum when we know most Kiwis don't want to change the flag. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Tim McIndoe.